Welcome back. We're burning through Dark Knights of Steel, originally set to be 12 issues. This book marks the midpoint, and things only escalate from here. We're picking up with a grieving John Constantine, who's not taken the death of King Jefferson well. And Tim Drake, finally, has come to tell John about the princess's coronation. The crown is about to be laid on the head of the next Pierce, and John doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want to see another Pierce line up for the slaughter, all because of some stupid dream that he had as a boy. Tim can tell he's hurting, beyond the mourning a subject would have for his king. But his presumptions of their relationship sets Constantine off. He's tired of Tim's prying eyes. Constantine tells him he knows exactly who he is. He's one of Batman's Robins, and he's kept him close, just to feed Tim with misinformation. But after all this spying and prying, Tim goes too far when he presumes that John is a good man. Constantine is called the Hellblazer for a reason. He leaves a trail of misery in his wake. Even from his origins, the character is defined by loss. His mother, father, sister, entire first team, the Newcastle crew, and now here in this reality, the Pierces. He retaliates, blasting Tim right out of the room into the hall in front of Princess Jennifer. And before Tim can explain, John rats him out as a Robin, and Jen takes immediate action, calling in guards, which are no match for a Robin, even injured. But lightning? That's a different story. He calls out to John for compassion, for mercy, and Constantine convinces Jen to let him go, letting him return to the L's with a message. And a day's ride later, young Master Drake stands before the L royal family to deliver his report. The poor guy is terrified. He just wants to give the info to Bruce or Alfred, or hell, even Dick, anybody else that might not, hit the messenger. But the Queen tells him to just out with it. He's home, among friends. So he nervously explains their declaration of war, following the coronation of their new queen. He then leads that up with why they think it's necessary. That according to an entire ship full of witnesses, Zara Jor-El murdered King Jefferson. He explains his various methods of interrogation to prove the validity of their words, but still, Cal doesn't want to hear it. And General Waller feels it's necessary to remind him of his allegiance, as if he spent too much time in the Kingdom of Storms. But ever the logical voice of reason, or at least in this series, Quinn has to ask, did Zala kill Pierce? And of course Zala denies it, and the look on her face seems genuine. Oddly, she really seems to believe that. And that's 2 assassinations that she's been accused of by the Kingdom of Storms in the last week. Diana reminds the court that the Amazonians will side with the Kingdom of Storms, as they always have. But just by her being there proves that she herself does not intend to hold that tradition. She stands with the House of El. Now ultimately, the Queen wants a moment to deliberate, and as the room is clearing, Waller leans in with one of her nuggets of wisdom, advising Queen Lara that if something were to happen to Hippolyta, that technically, Diana would then lead the Amazons. I do not like where that line of thinking is heading. I mean, really, it splits me up aside. What? Later that night, Cal stops in at the observatory to see if his pal Jimmy Olsen has seen Batman, Alfred, or any of the Robins. And that's a negative on all fronts. But shouldn't Cal know exactly what happened to Bruce? That's 2 L's who have now done some pretty sketchy shit and just seem to behave as if they have zero knowledge of it. That's freaking bizarre, man. But Cal then leaves his friend, saying that he's headed off to try and stop all of this. I'm a little nervous. Also, we'll explore this classic friendship more in the video's backup feature, so be sure to stick around. We head now deep into the Kingdom of Storms, where John Constantine is consorting with demons. He summoned Etrigan. However, it is not Etrigan that he seeks. It's the demon's head, Ra's al Ghul. Al Ghul assumes that Constantine's motives to be that of revenge, and he tells him that his assassins will not kill the elves. But that's not why John summoned him. He doesn't want to take a life. He wants to restore one. They examine the king and the prince, and based on their injuries, only Prince Jacob can be revived, but at a cost. And I don't mean the usual warnings of returning someone using the Lazarus pit, but an actual cost, a toll. In exchange for returning the prince, Ra's wants the Titans. Apparently, John has been keeping them, safeguarding them from a lot more than just the Batman's dungeon. And Al Ghul doesn't expect him to just hand them over himself. Just tell him. Tell the demon where they are. Come on, it's just one more deal. Right, John? Meanwhile, off the shores of Amazonia, Kal-El is spotted. Arrows and defenses are immediately deployed. As far as they know, Themyscira and the House of El are at war. And even if they weren't, like I said before, no man is allowed to step foot on. Okay, I see what you try to do there, but Hippolyta isn't having it. She stabs Cal with a magical blade, piercing him through and through, like he'd never thought possible. Later, held captive and restrained by a familiar golden rope, Cal can't help but show his pain. He can't help but tell the truth when Lois asks him about his sister's attack. Cal genuinely believes that Zala nor himself or his family would hurt anyone, especially children. Lois can tell that there's something not adding up, something invisible behind the scenes. And Cal doesn't have time for her pondering. He has to get to Hippolyta. He has to talk some sense to the queen before it's too late. But sadly, he's much too late for that. The Amazonian army has already set sail for the El Kingdom. All right, it's time for the last and the main story from the Tales of the Three Kingdoms. And it does well to set up a proper B story for this Elseworld. For the most part, everything else that we've seen from Earth 118 has related to the main plot, the prophecy and the war for Earth. But that's not the only plot at play. Every time we've mentioned the El Kingdom before, it's been the castle town, or dare I say it, the metropolis that's built up around the castle. We need to head to the harbor town of Gotham. You see, Perry White and his wife Alice recently adopted a young James Olsen, a very kind and sweet boy who's been a great help to them at the press. But he's always had his head in the clouds, his eyes on the stars. So for his birthday, Alice and Perry gave him a looking glass, something to help bring the stars closer to him, a small telescope. And he spent night after night on the roof of the printing shop, stargazing. And one night, as fate would have it, the boy obsessed with space meets the boy that came from space. And he and Cal strike up an immediate friendship. I mean, we all know about Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. But the prince isn't the only thing Jimmy saw flying over the city. And after James was snatched from the rooftop, Perry White traveled to the castle to speak to King Jor-El. He tells the king and queen that Jimmy isn't the only one, that he's not the only child to go missing. Several rumors about kids being taken from the Arkham orphanage by a large winged creature are circulating the city. So the king decides to double the amount of guards in Gotham to reduce the fears and hopefully find whatever it is attacking the townsfolk. But this isn't good enough for Cal, who sets out to find his friend. And first, he checks the rooftop of the printing press and finds several strange markings scratched into the tile roof. Then he heads to the top of Arkham Orphanage, where he finds more claw marks. And that's when Bruce makes himself known. He'd spotted the prince leaving the castle and decided to follow. But Zala saw him leave the castle and decided to follow. So the trio begin their investigation, and they start with a few eyewitnesses. The Orphans of Arkham. We see Oswald Cobblepot and a disheveled Harvey Dent, who apparently saw something but is having trouble communicating. Bruce tosses him a golden Thomas. It's not quite clear if this is a high-valued currency or a commemorative coin, but either way, a coin with his father's face has got to be somewhat sentimental to Bruce. And he tells him to use it to help make up his mind. And Harvey was then able to think clearly. He tells the group that he saw a monstrous creature take their friend Waylon, and that they headed to Mount Kermode. On their way to the mountain, Bruce tries to send Zala home, saying that she's too young to be out hunting monsters. But she just kind of taunts him, saying that the monster can fly, and she can fly. Can Bruce fly? But about then, Cal spots Jimmy's telescope in the snow, and close by they find a cave. The cave is too deep and takes too many turns for Cal to see the monster inside. But he and Zala can hear the children, and Zala soars off after the kids, not thinking about the danger. So Cal grabs Bruce and they follow suit. And what do they find deep in the cave? Man-Bat. Man-Bat debuted in the 70s, during the Neil Adams era. We'll talk more about that another time, but the trio start to assault the beast until Jimmy runs out in defense of his friend Kurt Langstrom, the man before the bat. Jimmy tells the royals that Kurt wasn't attacking them. He was trying to save them, to take them away from the horrors of Gotham. In addition to Oswald and Harvey back at the orphanage, we see Waylon, Killer Croc, Edward Nygma, Riddler, and perhaps even Jarvis Tetch, Mad Hatter. And Bruce puts it together first, that someone at the orphanage is experimenting on the kids. Elizabeth Arkham. After being alerted by the rescued kids, General Waller apprehends the criminal caretaker mid-experiment. The trio did the right thing. They saved the day, but they still have a king and queen to answer to. James is reunited with his family, but the tale doesn't quite end there. Waller enlists Elizabeth to the service of the kingdom. Not the crown, the kingdom. She tells her to continue her research, but under Waller's protection. This is the true Waller that I've expected. This is the B-plot. And I, for one, can't wait to see where it goes. But until we get more tales from the Three Kingdoms, that's it for now. Until next time, enjoy yourselves. Hey, hello, and welcome to the end screen. Thank you for being here. Really love this series, and I want more. Dark Knights of Steel is set to be 12 issues. This puts us at the halfway mark. I hope that you've been enjoying this Elseworld. I really dig what Tom Taylor's doing here. And with this B-plot, perhaps we'll get a proper season 2. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But if you like what we're doing here, then here's a couple of videos that you might also enjoy. Take care.